obviously hilarious. We've got to get into some of this. While I was on yesterday, Anthony Kennedy announced his retirement. And the funny thing about this is, like, Kennedy was largely a conservative justice. He was usually the conservative swing vote, except on some very, very high level, high profile social justice things like gay marriage. He was the vote that put that over the top. Abortion, he was always defending it. And so the left has just gone insane over this. I mean, you'd think that they loved this guy who was constantly voting for the right. You'd think they loved him, but they went. Here was just a token of their reaction.
I'm hysterical. I'm having hysterics. I'm hysterical. I can't stop when I get like this. I can't stop. I'm hysterical.
And that was the editor of the New York Times. So I mean, you can imagine how it was with people down the line. I have just one. It's funny. All we heard about up until this moment were babies crying at the border, and all we heard is babies crying. Look, babies. Here's a picture. Here's a baby. It's crying. That's from 2014. It's crying. It's a baby. It's crying. Suddenly, it's like, I don't care about babies crying. I'm crying. That's what matters. It's like the left just does anything. It's all emotion. They just always follow their emotions. I have one message for the left about this. This is your own damn fault. It's you who insisted that the Supreme Court, first of all, it's you who insisted that the government should put its grubby little fingers into every single aspect of our lives. The Constitution gives the government, the federal government, enumerated powers. It's not supposed to have any other powers except those mentioned in the Constitution. But it's you guys who have extended that power through interpreting the Constitution any way you want, just making it up. It's like a living document. It's a living, it's like that. It's like C is for Constitution by the, it just leaps up anytime it wants and rewrites itself. Now the federal government decides who gets married, who can get married, what laws the states can make about marriage, what laws the states can make about abortion. Basically you have like a Chicago Paul, like Obama, sitting in Washington telling people in Arkansas who should use the bathrooms in their public schools. Oh yeah, a girl says he's a guy, guy says he's a girl, that's the bathroom. The president of the United States is going to dictate that to Mississippi, is going to dictate that to Connecticut. It's like, what on earth? That is not the way our government was supposed to work. This is supposed to be enumerated powers. It's your fault, lefties, that this court has become that important. It shouldn't be that 5 unelected justices get this decision, get to make decisions that affect us all so deeply. If the government were smaller, if the government were obeying the Constitution and only having the enumerated powers in the Constitution, then the Supreme Court's decisions, every now and again, they'd make an important one, but it wouldn't be like every single one was dealing with every single one of us. It's the left. When you saw these decisions that we were talking about yesterday, these enforced speech decisions, it is the left that wants to tell you how to feel. It's the left that wants to tell you how to think. It's the left that wants to tell you how to say. They think that freedom just fell out of the sky and it will be protected no matter what we do. They do not understand that it's our laws, our Constitution that protect us. And when you interpret the Constitution rightly, even if you don't get what you want in that minute, it still is protecting you. And the left just doesn't get it. They only go with the results. They never care about the process. So even what they did with the filibuster paved the way for this moment when Trump basically has a free hand to appoint the kind of justice we hope will be the same kind of federalist, constitutionalist justice like Gorsuch. It was the left who paved the way for this. Remember, it's 2013. 2013, they said, you know what? Filibuster doesn't count anymore. Filibuster, forget the filibuster. You don't need 60 votes to appoint judges. They left the Supreme Court out of this. They said all the other justices, all the other federal justices, just a majority vote. And remember, Mitch McConnell, this is cut number 9, he told them, he was so upset about this, he told them not to do it. Here's just to remind you what that was like.
Once again, Senate Democrats are threatening to break the rules of the Senate, in order to change the rules of the Senate. And over what? Over what? Over a court that doesn't even have enough work to do? The majority leader promised, over and over again, that he wouldn't break the rules of the Senate in order to change them. If you want to play games, set yet another precedent that you'll no doubt come to regret. say to my friends on the other side of the aisle, you'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think.
So he's told them they were going to regret it. Harry Reid sent out a tweet saying, oh boy, I'm glad people encouraged me for filibuster reform. It's always reform when they do it. It's just, they just got rid of this rule, the filibuster, which, by the way, I wish they'd get rid of altogether at this point because it's outdated, it's being misused, but they didn't care. It is your own damn fault, lefties. You did this. And then on top of this, right, Neil Gorsuch is appointed by Trump. And because of the resistance and the pink hats and the people in the streets and all the anger from the left, because they cannot stand legally losing an election, all of that stuff, Chuck Schumer said, well, we're going to filibuster Gorsuch. Gorsuch didn't change the balance of the court. Gorsuch was replacing, as you remember, Antonin Scalia, so he didn't change the balance of the court. Why filibuster him? He was also unimpeachable. He was also a great justice, as everybody agreed. So why filibuster him? Didn't matter. Chuck Schumer had resistance, and they didn't think Mitch McConnell would blow him up, and he did blow him up, and he nuked him, and he said, okay, then we're not going to have the filibuster. Even Ben, remember Ben was saying, like, you know, he'll never do it. But he did. And he said, you know, you took the filibuster away. I told you you were going to regret it. Now we're taking it away for Supreme Court justices, too. So yesterday, Mitch McConnell was hilarious because Mitch McConnell has that kind of turtley face. You know, it almost like has no expression on it. You know, you've heard the expression, he looks like the cat who ate the canary. He looked like the cat who bit Chuck Schumer's head off and then spit it out. That's what he looked like. He looked like this little glow coming out of it. Here's just a note of him telling the left, telling Schumer, ain't going to be no resistance this time. We have the majority, and we're going to push it through.
The Senate stands ready to fulfill its constitutional role by offering advice and consent on President Trump's nominee to fill this vacancy. We will vote to confirm Justice Kennedy's successor this fall. As in the case of Justice Gorsuch, senators will have the opportunity to meet with President Trump's nominee, examine his or her qualifications, and debate the nomination. I have every confidence in Chairman Grassley's conduct of the upcoming confirmation process in the Judiciary Committee. It's imperative that the President's nominee be considered fairly and not subjected to personal attacks. Thus far, President Trump's judicial nominations have reflected a keen understanding of the vital role that judges play in our constitutional order. Judges must interpret the law fairly and apply it even-handedly.
It is if you are filling up my leftist tears tumbler, lefties, this is your own damn fault. Everything about the situation is the fault of the left. Every single thing about it. There's nothing about this that the right has to take any kind of blame for whatsoever. They made the court too strong. They basically said we can interpret the Constitution any way we want. Even today, even this week, as these decisions were coming out, when they had that decision that the travel ban was okay, was so obviously in the law that Trump had the power to put in this travel ban into effect. Even then, we don't have to obey no law. We don't need no Constitution. You know, they're the guys who did this. They're the guys who made the court so powerful. If the court, by practice and habit and custom, had remained within the confines of the Constitution, the states would have retained the power that they're supposed to have, and it would not be as epic a problem for the left as it is right now. And, you know, Schumer is, because they're so upset about Merrick Garland. You remember Merrick Garland was the pick of Obama, but he was about to leave office. And so they held it up for a year and said, no, we're going to have this election. So now Chuck Schumer, hilariously, is saying, oh, well, now you should hold it up because there's a midterm coming up, not a presidential election, but a midterm coming up, in the hopes that they will win the Senate and this will energize their base. And Schumer goes on the floor in what is, even he must know, is a desperate argument that is never going to go anywhere. He goes on and makes this play.
The Senate should reject anyone who will instinctively side with powerful special interests over the interests of average Americans. Our Republican colleagues in the Senate should follow the rule they set in 2016, not to consider a Supreme Court justice in an election year. Senator McConnell would tell anyone who listened that the Senate had the right to advise and consent, and that was every bit as important as the president's right to nominate. Millions of people are just months away from determining the senators who should vote to confirm or reject the president's nominee, and their voices deserve to be heard now, as Leader McConnell thought they should deserve to be heard then. Anything but that would be the absolute height of hypocrisy.
You're a mean, mad white man.
He is a mean, mad white man, and he's not going anywhere with this. Senator Mike Lee had the best response to this. Mike Lee is the guy that Ted Cruz and a lot of conservatives would like to see get the appointment. I suspect he's not going to, because he kind of stood against Trump, and Trump can hold a grudge, but maybe not. We don't know. So Dianne Feinstein also pushing this, and Shannon Bream reads Feinstein's statement to Lee. Lee's response is classic because it's just so honest.
Senator Dianne Feinstein, of course, the top Democrat on Judiciary, says this: there should be no consideration of a Supreme Court nominee until the American people have a chance to weigh in. Leader McConnell set that standard in 2016 when he denied Judge Garland a hearing for nearly a year, and the Senate should follow what she's calling the McConnell standard.
Yeah, two very important distinctions there. Number one, that was a presidential election year. This isn't. Number two, we have the majority. They don't. That's the biggest single distinction. That's the one that matters. So they can wish that all they want, but they know that we're going to confirm whoever President Trump happens to nominate.
See, that's as close as a senator can come as saying "screw you," basically. Although these days he could probably just say that. But it really is different, because the Republicans had the advantage when Garland was nominated, and they have the advantage now, and they're certainly not going to wait around for the midterms or anything else. They're going to do this as quickly as they possibly can, and they should. I mean, they should. But most of all, I mean, this is the left's fault that this is such a panic attack. This is such a crazed, wild leftist tears moment, that it's all their fault. But most of all, it is their fault because they have become antagonistic to the most basically held beliefs of the American people. And when I say the American people, I'm not just talking about right-wingers. I am talking about a large swath of people who are not on the left. Those people who are Democrats, liberals in the old sense of the word. I mean, now a liberal is a conservative, right? A liberal is basically the classical liberals, and the conservatives are basically the same people. There are areas of disagreement between them, but they're basically the same people. It is because the Democrats have lost touch with the whole middle of the country, the entire middle of the country, that they have to rule by fiat. They have to force things down our throat. And when they lose the power to do that through the Supreme Court, they just panic. It is all their fault.